Voice of Life Radio now presents CCN Magazine, featuring church and community news.
Hello, here is the CCN Magazine for May 30, 2015. First, the headlines. Power Youth hosts panel discussion. Evangelical services to be held in Marigot, CUC. Men's Week at Kenfield Gospel Mission. PPFC Fun Night hailed a success. Reaction to the sentencing of a child offender. 1,076 students sat Grade 6 National Assessment. St. Lucian pastor shot multiple times in drive-by shooting outside U.S. church. And Guyana's president pardons the 60 on Independence Day. Here are the details. From Sunday, May 31 through to 5th June, the Marigot Christian Union Church will be hosting 6 nights of evangelistic services from 7 o'clock nightly at the church building. Pastors Lennox Timothy, Oliver Wallace, and Mervyn Anthony are expected to be expounding the word. The pastor of the assembly hopes many will embrace a personal encounter with the Lord.
I would love to see Marigot being transformed. Not only that, but their names, many names, new names, would be written in the Lamb's Book of Life, because that role will be called some glorious day. Those whose names are not found written in the Lamb's Book of Life will be cast into everlasting fire.
Pastor Celia Carlton. Under the theme, While Men Slept, the Men's Fellowship of the Kenfield Gospel Mission Church will engage in activities to commemorate Men's Week 2015 from the 31st of May to June 5. Luke Saproach, president of the Men's Fellowship, explains the theme.
It's because of what I am seeing happening in our churches today. The women just take things for granted and not involved and just around, and they're just not pushing themselves. Like they're just in church, but they're just coming to church, some of them, and I see as a result of that, families falling apart, families splitting up, and churches suffering. There are men there, but they're not doing anything. As I was praying to God, and God revealed that, I think, in the scriptures. I am hoping that there's a revival of our men, and that will reflect in our community, in our families. They will see men come back to their families, men come back to God, and men begin to take God, work more seriously, and get themselves involved more in the church, because God rightfully called us men to carry out His function.
He says all activities will commence at 7 o'clock nightly. On Pentecost Monday, the Cochrane Pentecostal Church met to have a time of sports and family fun under the blazing sunlight. 5 churches participated in the activity. Among the sporting activities were lime and spoon, cricket, and rounders, as various church teams met to compete with each other. Host church, Cochrane, emerged winners. Pastor Victor Simon spoke about the day's activities.
We had Grand 4 Pentecostal Church, we had Laplane, River Siri, Mount Prosper, and Campbell joining us. We had a lot of games such as Needle and Thread, Bag Race, Born Itty, games of that sort. The atmosphere was perfect, everybody had a nice spirit. We have to really give God praise for that.
Pastor Victor Simon. In an atmosphere of relaxation and fun, the youth arm of the PPFC hosted a night of activities this past Friday. The event was also geared towards raising funds to help defray costs of church expenses. Organizers are thankful to God for the many persons who came in support of the activity. We hear from one of the organizers.
The barbecue and fun night that is being raised by the People's Pentecostal Family Church, it's an effort to raise funds for the development, maintenance, and upkeep of the playground in Goodwill. We have a children's playground, and we have to maintain the playground. We need to include some security features. For example, we are thinking of fencing the playground, and we are thinking of upgrading it. And we're talking about pest treatment and the actual upkeep of the playground for the betterment of the children and the overall environment. We've been getting tremendous support from the church members as well as the general public, especially those in the vicinity of the playground. We have people who are donating all whatever is required. So we are basically using the donations of everybody to be able to raise funds.
Lucia Stedman. The youth group SALT travels to Trinidad to partake in a first ever Eagles Caribbean Network Summit being hosted by the Eagles International Training Institute, EITI. The Eagles International Training Institute's goal is to train and educate those called to the ministry of dance, then raise them to be effective servants, teachers, and leaders who will establish the kingdom of God in all the earth. The Eagles Caribbean Network Summit leg is to combine a number of different worship forms during the one-week meeting. CCN wishes the SALT and others attending the summit God's extended mercies. The Loubier Pentecostal Church came alive on Friday, 29th May, with the hosting of a panel discussion on the theme, Before and After You Say I Do. The discussion highlighted the roles and responsibilities of the wife and husband, submission, communication, among others. Panelists included Joel Daniel, Pamela Gist, Alicia Wiltshire, and Pastor Jerry Laura. Ellen Paul said the team had an excellent presentation.
Some of the things that they expounded on, submission, how far should the wife go in submitting to her husband without losing her identity. We also spoke about what to expect before and after you say I do, because sometimes we go into relationships and we are not knowledgeable of what to expect. So the panelists did speak about that. Also, we spoke about the roles and responsibilities of the husband and wife to each other. And the reason for doing this, one of the things that we have identified is that we should be proactive and not reactive. And we had a well-experienced, balanced team. So if we could bring that sort of knowledge to our young persons who are contemplating marriage, or even those who have already been married and having difficulties, then we would be able to curb the divorce rate. And I just want to thank everybody for turning out and for supporting. And I will say that there will be a part 2 of this in a rich form.
Ellen Paul. Community stories. For the past few weeks, as the sexual abuse cases are being brought before the courts, the public has been closely monitoring the sentencing being handed down. Earlier this week, a 51-year-old man was sentenced to 25 years each for sexual intercourse and buggery on a 9-year-old girl in 2010. Here is the reaction of Mrs. Gemma Azil-Luis, coordinator of the Prevention of Child Abuse Unit in the Welfare Department.
This sentencing can serve as a deterrent to let persons know that if you have any intention of abusing a child or if you have ever abused a child, when you go before the court of law, you will be faced with the full brunt of the law. And I think it was about time that such a sentencing was done. Too many times I have seen that persons who have pleaded guilty to child sexual abuse have come out of this with much lenience, and I say that I'm very happy that this sentencing took place. Our children are being abused, and once a child has been abused, this thing can have a long-lasting effect on the child. Too many times we see persons reach adulthood in their 50s, in their 40s, in their 60s and beyond, and remember that an abuse took place when they were just 10 or 11, and this thing has affected their lifestyle because of being sexually abused. So I was very pleased to hear of the sentencing.
Meantime, social worker Francis Joseph shares these sentiments.
This current sentence reflects what I think the public is asking for, in the sense of someone needs to be punished and we need to send a message out. So we are happy that this person is not going to be out, seeing that they have a list of previous convictions, which is of concern to us. So we are happy that he is incarcerated in a way that he won't do any harm to anybody else. Our concern now is not necessarily the sentencing and someone does a crime and that we want to say that they are disciplined for it. Our concern now is prevention. It's true you can change the laws. If you change the laws, it's like you are saying we are preparing for more abuse by perpetrators. We want now to focus on a lot of prevention and early intervention, early detection of those things.
Francis Joseph. On Wednesday this week, Dominica also witnessed the signing of a petition to the UN to give stiffer penalties to persons found guilty of sexually abusing children. Because We Care Dominica, the fundraising arm of the Dominica Cancer Society, is hosting another fundraising event with proceeds going to assist uninsured cancer patients in accessing treatment and care. For this event, Dominican artists and photographers have joined them in the fight against cancer on all fronts. Over a dozen artists and photographers have donated an item of their products to be auctioned online via eBay. This can be viewed by visiting www.becausewecaredominica.com. Among artists contributing artworks include Earl Etienne, Ellenworth Moses, Petros Miaza, Tiffany Biscom Burnett, and Garan Burton. Among contributors of photography are Greg Jermaine, Holder Masai, Richard Lang, and Nathaniel Lovell. Of note is a beautiful children's illustration poster from Tanya Farah Jr. The online auction launched on Thursday, May 21, 2015 at 7 p.m. at the Anchorage Creole and Jazz event, closes at 8 p.m. on Saturday, May 30 at the Champs Hotel in Picard at a wine and cheese event. Biddings will run to 8 p.m. Dominica gears up to host a 5-day test match between West Indies and Australia to be played at the Windsor Park Sports Stadium. The sport will be played from the 3rd to the 7th of June. It is hoped that the public, especially the youth, will come in great numbers in support of this match. Tickets cost $15 and $25. Senior citizens receive free entrance. On Thursday and Friday this week, the annual Grade 6 National Assessment was opened to 542 girls and 534 boys who wrote the exams in language art, social studies, mathematics, and science. This year, 2015 shows a slight increase from 2014 when 1,067 students wrote the exam. The Grade 6 National Assessment is the final national standardized test before the pupils head off to secondary schools. CCN Magazine wishes the students success and prays for God's favor in their future endeavors. Regional stories. President David Granger pardoned 60 young people aged 18 to 25 years convicted of minor non-violent crimes. The first in what he says will be annual presidential pardons, as Guyana celebrated its 49th anniversary of independence on Tuesday, 26 May 2015. I believe that young people should be in school, not in jail, and I have asked that emphasis be placed on young persons and for petty non-violent offenses and sentences of short duration, the president said in an interview with some sections of the media on Tuesday. I hope they get back in school, get work, and get on with their lives. A St. Lucian pastor was seriously injured earlier this week in a drive-by shooting incident outside the church he heads in the United States. Reverend Dr. Augustus Silly was shot 3 times, twice in his right leg and once in his left shoulder, around 6:30 a.m. as he was placing flags on the lawn of the First Church of the Nazarene on Capitol Avenue as part of an annual tradition for the church's Memorial Day celebration. Investigators found 7 shell casings on the scene. His wife, Dr. Sharon Silly, had this to say.
He hasn't lost any hope. This is something that happened that was really terrible and, shouldn't have happened. And we've already prayed for that person who actually committed the crime. We look to God for strength, and that's what my family is doing right now.
She described the shooting as devastating, saying he had to undergo surgery for his shattered femur and a metal rod was placed in his leg. Doctors say he is expected to survive. The pastor, born and raised in St. Lucia and headed a church in his home country, subsequently moved to the United States, where he has served 5 churches, according to U.S. media reports. CCN asks that all remembers the congregation and the family members in prayer while seeking God's intervention in the matter. Of human interest, the CCN Magazine and by extension, the Voice of Life Radio, would like to ask listeners to exercise greater caution in what your children are being exposed to. There is a new paper game which has been making news in the social media as persons are concerned that a demon named Charlie is being summoned. Much talk states that gravity is the reason for the pencils moving when Charlie is prompted with questions. Others debate that there is no Mexican demon named Charlie. Regardless the arguments for and against, let us have our children memorize and meditate on 1 Thessalonians 5:22, which admonishes to abstain from all appearance of evil. This concludes the CCN Magazine for today, May 30, 2015, with your reporter and presenter, Medina James. Have a great weekend. Hope to see you in church.
You've been listening to The Voice of Life's CCN Magazine,